Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. We'll be getting started in just a couple of minutes. We want to give a bit of time for other attendees to join as well. So thanks for your patience. We'll be starting shortly. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We'll be getting started right now. So, good evening, and I'm Aparna. I'm a part of the marketing team here at Zoho Books. We're excited to dive into one of the key parts of tax and compliance, GST litigation. And it is my pleasure to introduce our speaker for today's session, CA Bimal Jain sir. A fellow member of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India since 1994, CA Bimal Jain sir has 30 plus years of experience in taxation, compliance, corporate finance, and strategic advisory. He also holds a bachelor's degree in law and is qualified as a SAP financial controlling consultant. Over the course of his career, he's been associated with renowned organizations such as LG Electronics, Honda, Hindustan Development Corporation, PwC, and he currently serves as the executive director at A to Z Tax Corp. CA Bimal sir is widely recognized for his expertise in GST and indirect taxation and has contributed extensively as a speaker and advisor in this field. He was also a keynote speaker at the Guinness World Record event for the largest taxation lesson on GST organized by ICSI. His professional contributions have been recognized through several awards and accolades from leading institutions and key industry bodies. We're pleased to have him with us today to share his insights and perspectives on the evolving taxation landscape in India. Please join me in welcoming CA Bimal Jain, sir. Thank you, and over to you, sir.
Thank you, Aparna, for lovely introduction, and thanking each of the participants joining today for important topic, important webinar, new era of GST litigation, from so-called notice to GSTAT. I hope you all are ready. And this time we are going to have PPT presentation also for your digest. So we are going to learn that what is so important when we talk about GST litigation. Definitely, we want to learn the framework of litigation in GST. It starts from so-called notice, and then we can go up to Supreme Court. So what are the process involved? What are the caution required? What are the common mistake we do? And what would be our strategy in terms of preparation? Factual positions, law positions on merit, on limitation, on violation of principle of natural justice. We're going to touch base each of the point when we want to be one of successful GST litigant. So let's take it forward. That's what the objective all about. So I request each participants to have some paper, pen ready. Important pointers, you can take it down. Of course, this session webinar is getting recorded and going to be uploaded on Zoho Books YouTube channel, so you can watch later as well. And I'm going to run a PPT which will help you to digest each of the point whenever I'm discussing. And whatever I'm discussing, you may note down on a piece of paper so that you can recall what we discussed today and how we all can become successful GST litigant, maybe as a taxpayer, maybe as a tax professional, and what are the important things we have to keep in our mind if at all we want to be successful one. So without any further delay, let me start with. When you look at GST and GST litigation, we all know it all starts first from discrepancy notice, from return filed. So we get ASMT 10 under section 61 of CGSTAT. We reply under ASMT 11, department sometime accepting and sometime not accepting ASMT 12, and they're not issuing sometime ASMT 12. And there's a concept called GST audit under section 65, which is done by GST department. Then we got inspection, search, and seizure provision under section 67 of CGST Act. Then start 73 or 74. 73, non-fraud case. 74, fraud case for issuance of so-called notice in GST. But the life of 73 and 74 is expiring and got expired, I must say, by financial year 23-24. New section 74 capital A got introduced and which is made applicable from financial year 24-25. So we are going to discuss each of the component, get set ready, and let's start with. So I'm sharing my screen with the PowerPoint presentation. We can discuss, and then at the end of the webinar, if you're having any query, rest assured, just note down those queries. We will take your queries for the answering at the end of the webinar. Let me share my screen first. I hope my PPT is visible to all the participants. If you can say yes in question answers tab. Can you see the PPT visible to all the participants? If you can just write yes, then it will make sense. All right, thank you very much. So let's start without any further delay. So the first and important aspect, what we are going to discuss today, we are going to discuss litigation journey framework in GST, where from it start and where it is going to be end. We are going to discuss the so-called notice stage, which is foundation for both, for tax department and for a taxpayer. Then we are going to discuss how you can make your case strong while replying to the so-called notice. What are the important aspects and factors need to be considered when you look at drafting and documentation while drafting the so-called notice? The common mistake we do, we are going to discuss each component as well. And then adjudication tactics or strategy. So adjudication is not only on law point. We need to have strategy prepared. There should be some tactics. And this is called your professional acumen, which will help you to defend your case from so-called notice itself. Then navigating first appeal before first appellate authority under section 107, and then we will move to GSTAT. Strengthening argument, how you can strengthen your argument in your favor, and emerging trends, what are the things happening differently in the litigation practice, and the golden rules. Today's webinar is very, very important when you look at as a tax professional or as a taxpayer. Let's look at this particular slide, where from we start and where we are ending with. We all know so-called notice issued either under section 73 non-fraud case, 74 fraud case, only up to financial year 23-24. So what happened after 24-25 financial year? There's new section 74 capital A made applicable for both non-fraud case and fraud case. So we are going to discuss some of the provision also. So-called notice. Then you must be replying to the so-called notice, right? Then a personal hearing given by adjudicating authority. And you must say, I've seen generally when we are filing reply to the so-called notice and going for the adjudication, sorry to say, maximum cases I've seen the officer concerned is only, okay, you submitted the reply. What do you want to argue? When they create a PH note, they only say reiterated, reply submitted, that's all. They are not noting down anything. And even sometimes looks like to me, they are not reading file also. I do not know, but maximum cases I've seen like that. But does it mean that as a taxpayer, as a tax professional, I should not go prepared? And what are the strategy I should build to defend my case, starting from reply till the personal hearing? Even though he is not giving me a listening, proper listening doesn't matter. Your documentation will say so. If you prepare the document well, wanted to present, he's not listening to you, not giving time properly, doesn't matter. But once foundation is being created, then I'm sure you'd be successful. Either at first appellate authority, which is sometime because commissioner appeal or appellate authority only from department. So we have seen the revenue pro judgment comes out from them, but GSTAT with a second appellate mechanism. I'm hopeful with this foundation, you will definitely get the relief in GSTAT. If it is not getting resolved, then of course, High Court and Supreme Court. Do you know one important aspect? Out of the 100 cases made by the GST department or any tax department, be it direct tax or indirect tax, their success ratio in the Supreme Court is less than 10%. Meaning thereby 90% cases dropped. Drop because that is no justification, no legality, no, proper allegation made, 90% cases revenue is failing. So our success ratio is 90%. Revenue succeed only for the 10%. So this all depends how you have looked at the so-called notice. Now, why it is important in GST? Because GST more on structured, digital, and evidence-based litigation. Everything is being done through GSTN portal. In pre-GST regime, VAT regime, you must be recalling, each state was driving their litigation manually. So there was manual file, they were keeping manual file, and that manual file reply is getting submitted, and officer concerned was deciding either in favor or against. But now GST, everything happening on GSTN portal, starting from registration, return filing, scrutiny notices, audit, inspection, search and seizure, then so-called notice, even our reply to the so-called notice, everything on portal. So it is important that you must create a robust documentation. Your reply to the so-called notice must be so strong. If you're not getting relief before the adjudicating authority or first appellate authority, doesn't matter. But once you prepared your reply well, then I'm damn sure you will get success before GSTAT, which is now new phenomenon, and we are going to discuss. And then, of course, after that, High Court and Supreme Court. So we are going to discuss each of the components briefly for our understanding and easy digest. GST ecosystem is very transparent. Now, manual-driven documentation has no relevance. It is all being routed through GSTN portal. Even appeal filing on GSTAT portal is digital. So digitization is the word, and documentation system-driven scrutiny, everything is being done in GST. So your robust documentation is important, backbone. Whenever you see any litigation in GST, so every stage build upon previous. A weak so-called notice reply, weakness weakens the entire chain of litigation. What is the irony I've seen also? Irony I've seen in our practices, we are not that sincere when we look at reply to so-called notice. Even I've seen the aggrieved person is not taking the help of tax professional, and they are negotiating the fees, professional fees. And whatever reply, and today is the word of ChatGPT and AI. What we are doing, we are getting reply prepared by ChatGPT or AI and submitting to the authority. We are not conscious of the fact that ChatGPT or AI reply to the so-called notice is weakening your litigation success when it will come to GSTAT. So if you are not preparing from so-called notice well, then rest assured, even additional evidence, whether to be accepted or not accepted by the GSTAT, it will be decided by the bench. So let's say you have not taken some evidence in your defense at the time of so-called notice reply. Can you take that evidence at the time of cases coming up before benchage? In GSTAT, it is all subjective. So preparation from so-called notice itself is the important one. So let's proceed. Foundation of the litigation. So this slide will give you more comprehensive picture. And before starting this slide, I will take 2-3 minutes more for your immediate digest. We know Section 73 non-fraud case. We know Section 74 fraud case up to financial year 23-24. So-called notice and order to be passed. What is the time period prescribed? 3 years from the due date of furnishing annual return for 73, 5 years from the due date of furnishing annual return for section 74 fraud cases. What is the time limit for issuance of so-called notice? It is at least 3 months prior, at least 3 months prior to the date specified for passing the order for section 73 and 6 months prior for 74 cases, fraud cases. And they have a component called non-payment of taxes, short payment of taxes, ITC wrongly availed or wrongly utilized, and erroneous refund. So this is 73, 74, and now sunset clause applicable only up to financial year 23-24. Now, what is the new section? New section is 74 capital A, and it is made applicable from financial year 24-25, and both non-fraud cases and fraud cases are being clubbed together. So there's no different time period as we have seen in 73 and 74. Now there's a common timeline. The so-called notice under section 74 capital A, be it non-fraud or fraud case, it's 42 months from the due date of furnishing annual return. 42 months from the due date of furnishing annual return. And order to be passed within 12 months plus 6 month extended time period as permitted by commissioner or any proper officer not below the rank of joint commissioner, with a region mentioned. Order to be passed within 12 plus 6 months from the date of issuance of so-called notice. So notice to be issued within 42 months from the due date of furnishing annual return, and order to be passed within 12 plus 6 months from the date of issuance of so-called notice. So this is the timeline. Limitation. When we look at 73, 74 and 74 capital A, one important aspect comes penalty. Of course, we know tax and interest. If tax demand exists, then interest going to sustain. There is no escape route. But penalty you can always look at. If it is non-fraud case under section 73, then penalty prescribed is higher of 20,000 or 10% of tax amount, right? But no penalty leviable if you have paid the tax and interest before issuance of so-called notice, or even after issuance of so-called notice, but within 30 days of so-called notice, then no penalty. 73, non-fraud case. 74, penalty is 100% of tax amount evaded. 100% in fraud cases. But this can be liberalized in a manner. If you pay tax and interest before issuance of so-called notice, then penalty is only 15% of tax amount. Penalty is only 15% of tax amount before issuance of so-called notice. If you pay within 30 days of so-called notice, penalty is 25% of tax amount within 30 days. If you pay within 30 days of order in original, then penalty is 50% of tax amount. Otherwise, penalty is 100% in all fraud cases as specified in section 74. What will happen in section 74 capital A? As I have said, 74 capital A now commonly applicable for non-fraud and fraud cases, and common timeline. And whatever penalty provision I've said, it is going to be same as such as I've discussed for 73 and 74. Only change it, 30 days is increased to 60 days. 30 days, wherever I referred, is increased to 60 days. That you have to keep to your mind. So non-fraud cases, of course, no penalty. But if you pay within 60 days of so-called notice, no penalty. Otherwise, 10% of tax amount or 20,000, whichever is higher. So non-fraud case. Now there is no reference of 73 is non-fraud case. And fraud case, again, 15%, 25%, 50%, 100%. That time limit before issuance of so-called notice, 15%. Within 60 days of so-called notice, 25%. Within 60 days of order in original, 50%. Otherwise, 100%. That is the provision under section 74, capital A. So this is on limitation. Now important. Look at what I have mentioned in my slide. Important pointer. And before important pointer, I have given one tagline. I hope you must be keeping to your mind. Your case is won or lost at the so-called notice stage itself. If you are preparing your reply to so-called notice from ChatGPT and AI, then you can just visualize your position in terms of success you want to achieve at GSTAT level or High Court level or Supreme Court level. So reply to so-called notice must be robust one. So what are the pointers you should keep to your mind? First, limitation. Whenever you get so-called notice, you first look at the limitation. With the so-called notice issued is within time. If it is not within time, then you should argue it is barred by limitation. What I've seen in GST today, there's no fraud, no willful suppression, no misstatement, but department. When their time is expired for non-fraud cases, 73, they are taking a route of section 74. And under section 74, they get extended time period, right? And they're issuing so-called notice. Can these so-called notice sustain? No way. No way. Because using the extended time period for fraud cases, but no allegation. They are not proving how fraud is coming out, how willful suppression is coming out, how misstatement is coming out. So issuing so-called notice under section 74 will not sustain unless they prove the mens rea, intention to evade taxes. So first you look at the time limit. Even what I have seen, when you look at so-called notice, you must run so-called notice para by para. First I said limitation. Second, I'm saying without jurisdiction. If you can prove that this so-called notice is without jurisdiction. And what is the meaning of without jurisdiction, by the way? Let's say, and I'm telling you my life cases to you, which I've argued, and we have filed a writ petition at the so-called notice itself. One of the cases I'm recalling from Odisha High Court, it was pertaining to service tax demand. Department has relied upon an invoked section, and section that is chargeable section. They invoke chargeable section 66 for the period after 1st July 2012. I said to the Lordship, section 66 gone. From 1st July 2012, 66B is applicable of Finance Act. So the section which is being invoked in a so-called notice no more exists. Hence, this so-called notice is without jurisdiction. I'm giving you just one example. Just one example. Even today, under parallel proceedings, under section 6, subsection 2, clause B of CGST Act, let's say CGST authority has issued the so-called notice to you on a particular subject matter, let's say ITC. let's say ITC, on a particular subject matter pertaining to one supplier, let's assume, whether SGST is now empowered to issue so-called notice on same subject matter on which so-called notice is already issued by CGST department without jurisdiction. Section 6, subsection 2, clause B clearly saying that there should not be double jeopardy on same subject matter. And what is the meaning of proceedings? By issuance of so-called notice. What is being held by Honorable Supreme Court recently in Armor Security India Private Limited. They have said proceedings means by issuance of so-called notice. If so-called notice issued by CGST department on any particular subject matter, then SGST department cannot issue so-called notice on same subject matter. It may be, we can take a call whether we should reply. Replying to so-called notice is our tactics or strategy, but otherwise it is without jurisdiction. So some of the High Court want that you must reply to the adjudicating authority to that extent. And then if department is still passing impugned order, then go to High Court through a writ petition under Article 226 to the Constitution of India. So these are the call we have to take. That is called strategy and tactics, but without jurisdiction. SGST issuing so-called notice, even though CGST department has issued so-called notice without jurisdiction. I'm just giving flavor, food for thought. Even under CGST department, there is amount threshold prescribed that who is the officer who would be issuing so-called notice and passing the order under CGST. And there was circular number 31 dated 9th of February 2018. And threshold prescribed age up to 20 lakh, superintendent is empowered. From 20 lakh to 2 crore, assistant commissioner or deputy commissioner is empowered. And exceeding 2 crore, it is joint commissioner or additional commissioner. This is the threshold prescribed in the circular for CGST department. Now, can we take advantage of this particular threshold as per this circular of CGST department? If superintendent is only empowered up to 20 lakh, can he issue so-called notice for 40 lakh rupees? Can't be done. Allahabad High Court, in the case of Mayuri Traders, said this so-called notice is without jurisdiction because of CGST circular prescribing the limit and threshold. So this is how you have to look at the jurisdictional part. Sometime concern one of the case which we were supposed to argue today. The DRC 07 issued by Maharashtra GST authority, whereas detailed order is passed by Gujarat GST authority. How come doable? My transaction was IGST, Gujarat is passing detailed order, but DRC 07 passed by Maharashtra authority. How come it is doable without jurisdiction? So you have to create these ground to make your case. So I'm giving food for thought. These are the learning curve we need to capture. So this is called on jurisdiction. Limitation, I have already communicated how you have to look at the limitation part. Now, violation of principle of natural justice. It's a big term. Violation of principle of natural justice. How come? If department is not giving you opportunity of being heard, you want any adverse order to be passed in GST, that the provision prescribed 75 subsection 4 of CGST Act. He must give you minimum 3 personal hearing before passing any adverse order. Recently, I've seen very interesting case. Even our High Court are giving divergent judgment. That is what the irony today. In one of the case before Gujarat High Court,
The taxpayer has wrongly mentioned no PH required. Wrongly mentioned. It was not his intention, but he has mentioned no PH required. Authority has not given PH and passed the adverse order. Matter went up before Gujarat High Court. And it was argued before Honorable Gujarat High Court, if I mention no PH required, does it mean that I should not be given another opportunity for hearing? When you're passing any adverse order against me, the 3 PH provision prescribed, then Honorable Gujarat High Court has said it is statutorily and mandatorily required. But one of the MP High Court judgment, Madhya Pradesh High Court judgment, they said it is not obligation. If you are not submitting reply to the so-called notice, then it means that you don't want any PH. That is what the basis MP High Court has said. PH is not required and adverse order is correct. I do understand divergent practice exists, but does it mean that PH is not required when provision 75 subsection 4 says shall? The word used shall. Shall is obligation, obligatory, mandatory, statutory. It can't be option of officer. Before passing any adverse order, he must ensure PH is being given. And I'm sure if these matter reaches to the Supreme Court, Honorable Supreme Court will give the judgment in this regard as per my humble submission. But you look at whether you got the PH or not. But what could be other way? You submitted the reply. And concerned proper officer is not considering your reply, only copy pasting your so-called notice and passing the impugned order. Is it not the violation of principle of natural justice? ASMT 10 issued, you replied through ASMT 11, and sometime ASMT 12 is also being given as a clearance relief, but still so-called notice is being issued. What does it mean? Violation of principle of natural justice. Copy paste of so-called notice will not work. They're supposed to look at my reply. We are filing one writ petition. We are discussing one case and going to file writ petition in Rajasthan High Court. Case was fake ITC, no denial. How the case is being built, let's listen. The factual is very interesting one. As per factual, department is saying that this supplier is not making payment of tax. The government exchequer under section 16, subsection 2, clause C of the CGST Act. That is the department allegation, right? Now, what we have seen on GSTN portal that this supplier is filing one. It is auto-populated in 2A, 2B of me, recipient. He's also filing 3B. So his status is coming out on a portal that he's regular compliant with 1 and 3B. When 3B regularly filed, it is implied he has paid the taxes, right? But what is department allegation, Department is saying the preceding layer of the immediate supplier, L2, he might not have filed 3B, he might not have paid the taxes. He has only filed 1. Credit has flown to the immediate supplier, and with this credit, he is filing 3B, of which L2 has not paid the taxes. This is as good as taxes are not being paid. We are going to argue before the court and say to the Lordship, can I see some of the things beyond immediate supplier? Whatever I can see on portal, I can see only the compliance of immediate supplier. I can't go back beyond the immediate supplier. If this was visible to the GST department 2 years back, 3 years back, why didn't they woke up? Why they're coming today? And this is not available to me in doctrine of impossibility. I cannot go beyond immediate supplier. So I'm only giving food for thought. Violation of principle of natural justice. You have to keep to your mind, these are the factors you can really look into and build your case. So what you need to prepare the strategy, never give generic reply. Never give generic reply. Why I'm telling you, we have seen in litigation practice either downloading from Google or ChatGPT or AI or copy paste. We copy paste reply from each other's, from one reply to another reply. Don't give generic reply. Be focused on your reply to the allegation made in a so-called notice and specifically say what you wanted. What is your defense in this regard? Then only you can sustain. Use point-wise rebuttal. All the allegation made in a so-called notice must be rebutted. You should rebuttal means all the points wise you put your defense why your allegation will not sustain. And then give the documentary proof. Reconciliation. Like I have said, when my immediate supplier is filing 3B, filing 1, his compliance status is available on GSTN portal. What best I can do? I have tax invoice copy, I got LR copy, I got eBay bill, I got Wegman slip, I got 2A, 2B. I've seen that I paid the taxes to the supplier. Supplier has also filed the 3B. I can't go beyond the immediate supplier. You have to do like this, rebuttal. And that is what I'm telling you. So it is all preparation you have to do. So you need to break your so-called notice. How you need to break so-called notice? First, you should say what is the fact of the case. Fact means who you are, where are you registered, what you are doing, what are the things as being progressed, maybe starting from discrepancy notice, ASMT 10, then audit or inspection, search and seizure or so-called notice. So facts must be clearly elaborated. Your legal provision invoked. Why legal provision invoked? You can check whether correct legal provision invoked or not. 16 subsection 2 clause C, supplier not paying taxes, but as per me, he's filing 3B. How I can assume supplier is not paying taxes? You're going back to the L2 preceding layer, of which I have no idea. So these are the things you need to keep to your mind, legal provision. And sometimes department is so casual, they want to invoke section 16 subsection 2 clause C, but quoting section 16 subsection 2 clause B for non-receipt of goods or services without jurisdiction. So we have to make a case, and then evidence relied upon. Department relying upon what? Sometimes they are relying on one supplier has made some forgery. Then it does not mean that other suppliers are also doing forgery unless it is being alleged in the so-called notice. So whatever evidence relied by the department, you need to cross-check whether it is really related to you or they are creating general perception, general assumption and presumption that will not sustain. So this is the basis. You need to create foundation. Before I move to next slide. Yes, I spoke in 10-15 minutes. I really want to say from you that you got some breather, you got some basis, you got some reasoning why your robust documentation and reply to so-called notice is a must. Do you all agree that it can't be ChatGPT reply, it can't be copy-paste reply? You need to really make it a formidable one. Even at the cost of professional fees, we must go for it. Then only we can get ourselves prepared. Thank you. Thank you very much. Let's move now. Now, as I said, how to build a strong case at the so-called notice, I divided into 4 buckets, 4 categories. I hope you are capturing. First, fact building. You need to really create your fact properly. There may be a case of reconciliation, 1 versus 3B versus book, or 2A versus 2B versus your ITC in the books, your agreement, your invoices, your eBay bill. your email trails and commercial understanding. GST is a document-driven litigation. You need to. When I'm arguing for section 16, subsection 2, clause C, non-payment of taxes by the supplier, even though recipient has paid the amount to the supplier, I'm creating all documentation. I'm saying that I'm having invoice 16, subsection 2, clause A. For B, I'm saying that I got a receipt at my warehouse or factory, eBay bill, LR copy, Bakeman slip, my input-output register, and sometimes picture of that lorry. And now on this portal, there's NFID portal, I do recall, whereby you can cross-check your truck movement as well, passing through a toll. Departments sometimes create, allegation it has not gone through this toll. How we can assume that you have received the goods? So these documentation you need to build. So this is all process start at the beginning. At the beginning means prior to the so-called notice. But for defense, you have to create as many documentation and as many argument as you can so that you can defend your case. Then legal positioning. You must quote your relevant section, rule, and circular. Read with notification. Read with any kind of, clarification issued through instruction. So you must know when I'm replying, what I'm replying from, where I'm replying. Quote those relevant provision. You just reproduce that provision in the reply itself. So that tomorrow when it reaches to the higher authority, you need not require to go back and cross-check. Those replies would be readily available to you. And that will make your task easy. So whatever you're defending, apart from facts, the relevant provision supported by rules, notification, circular, instruction must be there itself, so that you need not require to flip over the pages here and there. You would be knowing that to what I'm replying. What are the provision applicable? So it is a task. So establish that whether it is taxable or non-taxable. Since 7 is the supply, right? Unless there is supply, there is no taxability. So a lot of argument can be built depending on the case, from one case to another case, and there is no standard juice, SOP, that this can be applied to all litigation. No way. You have to look at one case as a specific case and prepare accordingly. That is how you need to do that. Come to the interpretation strategy. Interesting one. And that is what called jurisprudence. Legal jurisprudence. On interpretation, lot many things are happening. You have to look at what kind of interpretation you need to draw. What are the judgment coming out? And I can, tell you number of judgment where on interpretation, like you must be recalling VKC footstep judgment on inverted duty structure. Two contrary judgment. Gujarat High Court has said you can get refund on input and input services when you look at refund of inverted duty structure. Am I right? What is inverted duty structure, by the way, for easy understanding? When rate on input is higher comparing rate on output. What refund you will be entitled? Input, input service, and capital goods, right? 3 components. As per provision, input, but Gujarat High Court has said you can get refund on input services as well. Input and input services. But Madras High Court denied. No. Refund only on input. And Honorable Supreme Court has said, after reading the provision 54 subsection 3, read with rule 89 and relevant sub-rule 5 of CGST rule, they have said refund only on input. You will not get refund on input service and capital goods. The formula for doing the calculation was having some inherent deficiency that got corrected. So that is what the BKC footstep. So interpretation, you have to look at like you got judgment safari retreat from Supreme Court. where they have discussed 17 subsection 5 clause C and clause D. What is the meaning of, functional test? There are a lot of things which we can discuss, but time is a pause, so I'm not going in detailed part of it. Of course, you can go back to my YouTube channel. You can watch those judgment, digest which we have created. So this is interpretation. 17 subsection 5 clause D, just food for thought. They're saying credit is not available on goods or services for construction of immovable property on own account. What is the meaning of own account? Safari retreat judgment was in a different context, but para 32 of Safari retreat judgment clearly saying when you get some construction done for yourself, that is on own account. When you're constructing for others and he's going to use for services, then that is not on own account. Credit is available. So it is different way. An interpretation, really interesting one. And that's what you need to pick up when you look at your so-called notice. Then evidence mapping. What is the evidence mapping? Every argument of yours needs supported by a document, a legal extract for every transaction. And why it is required importantly, so that everything is prepared at one go. Then if appeal has to be filed, everything is there at the foundation. You can pick up from there only. And then if you want to quote or read, everything is available in the foundation basis document, which is reply to the so-called notice. So no document equal to no defense. I've given the tagline, so I am sure you must be taking clue from this slide that how important it is to build a strong case at so-called notice stage itself. Now the drafting and documentation. Drafting is something different, and it may vary from one person to another person. Even the language, even the sentence drafting, even creating chronology, even connecting legal versus factuals, factual versus legal, then citation. This is called art. This needs experience. Experience comes only when we start doing that. There are a lot of youngsters watching today's webinar. I'm asking each one of you, please tell me whether we can learn drafting on day one. It is not possible. Believe me, not possible. But it comes only when you got inner passion. You're passionate about it. You really want to do something. See, drafting requires a lot of things need to be, it is simple. One example, you go to home, your wife, your sister, your mother, or sometimes you're cooking something. So even the tea making is also required. How much water to be put in, how much milk to be put in, how much tea to be put in, how much sugar to be put in, how much ginger to be put in, and what combination, one after another, at one go, how to be done. First, I should get the water boiled, then put milk. It's all similarly, drafting is also interesting part. Of course, it start with the facts, then start with the grounds of defending yourself. But creating this particular factuals versus defending the ground, it's an art. Drafting should be, sometimes we believe that a lot of using English cosmetics language and we can defend ourselves. No way. Let it be simple. I always believe if you're simple, which you can understand and which you can demonstrate, is the best one. You need not require to be master in English. Need not be. I'm telling you, what you should be, that you should be knowing that how to build your case. Drafting should flow that way. It should be so smooth that one after another, the chronology will come out. Serially numbered, properly configured, placement is correct, not going, overlapping each other. So documentation also need that kind of support. Your document should annex along with your argument. That is what I'm telling you. Let's look at what is important for us. So drafting excellence, important, your background, your facts, your issues, your legal submission, and the prayer. Is it not the background? Even GSTAT also want their appeal to be drafted in this manner. I'm saying at the so-cause notice itself. Had it been prepared at the so-cause notice itself, it would be easier for you to pick up appeal for GSTAT. Your background, your facts, your issues involved, legal submission, and the prayer. So that is what the basis, it is a basis of initial drafting. If it is being done at so-cause notice itself, you are prepared, ready for GSTAT appeal. Why it is decisive? That GST system relies heavily on GST return, reconciliation, system-generated data and analytics, proper documentation like consistency across all filing, defense against mismatch-based so-cause notice. Strong document reduces litigation risk itself. So you need to prepare accordingly. So I've said that what should be the basis when you look at drafting and documentation. What are the common mistake now we do? What are the common mistake we have seen we are doing? Are you aware of? I want to listen from now because I've spoken almost 45-50 minutes. I just want to see if you can write back in a question answers tab. What are the common mistakes you perceive we do normally in our daily routine while drafting? Please write something. I want to just give 30 seconds or a minute to each one of you. If you can write something, and writing own mistake is the first step for improvisation. If I know what mistake I'm doing, then that is the first step that I'm on the path of improvement. If I know. So I just want to see, please write. Okay. Okay, chronology, overlapping the issue. Many are writing now. So I'm so thankful. There are so many friends now writing back. Anil Kumar saying chronology. Ramesh Gudu Mari saying facts not clear. So thanks. That's what I wanted. So lack of mentioning of submission made in the past, no problem. Excessive case logs, copy pasting. Yes, definitely. Lakshmi Kanta is saying, Ajankya Patil saying not sharing clear conclusive evidence, a reference to the section act and rules, voice. Okay. Someone is now coming back saying in between voice breakup. So maybe, so you can check your internet connection, overlapping of the issues nevertheless, but we are willing. We are willing to look, really correct ourselves. So common mistake. Let's look at what the common mistake we do. First, sometimes we are delaying the reply or ignoring the so-cause notice. Even we are getting ASMT 10 but not replying in ASMT 11 within the time period is stipulated. Delay is fatal. So-cause deadlines are strict under the GST law. So you must reply. In case you are struggling with, write a letter seeking time that please give me 15 days, 30 days more to collate all data, documentation and submit to the authority so that he will not be passing any adverse order abruptly because your communication has gone to him. So don't delay. Play within the time period stipulated in the law. Second mistake we do, copy paste replies without analysis. Tell me honestly, I'm asking you, tell me honestly, are we not doing copy pasting? And what is ChatGPT and AI today? Nothing. They are not giving specific reply to the allegation made in your so-called notice. They are generic. And generic reply will not work. You need to be specific one. So copy paste reply without analysis will not work. Not requesting personal hearing. So you have seen MP High Court judgment. I just are you there? Are you all there on my YouTube channel? Have you subscribed? We are posting now a small reel of 3 minutes and posting such judgment. I created one video, maybe that will be posted in the coming week. Gujarat High Court versus MP High Court on PH. We must ask for the personal hearing. Whether it is being, authority concerned, which he's bound to give, but still we must write that PH is required. Now, failure to challenge jurisdiction. Jurisdiction, I discussed many pointers, but we need to have those pointers ready to challenge jurisdiction. Failure to challenge limitation. Sometimes we are not challenging limitation. Skip to our mind. So I said, whenever you are drafting, be ready. 4-pointer. First look at limitation, then jurisdiction, then violation of principle of natural justice, then start with the merit. That is how you need to build yourself. And that is how you need to progress further. And submitting incomplete document. A lot of you have said, yes, chronology is not being done properly, not being aligned together. That is not helping me. So what I'm telling you, to each one of you, we have to do good. And for doing good, create passion. Passion of what? Yes, I want to do good. Let me learn. Let me learn more. And being lawyer, being, tax professional, be chartered accountant, cost accountant, or company secretary or a lawyer. Important is, if you keep your passion alive till last breath, you are the person who can do litigation. Litigation is learning every day. Being senior is not the criteria, or being junior is not the criteria. What is the criteria? Yes, I want to improvise. What I am today, I should be better than yesterday. And that is what my roadmap should be. So create passion. Of course, we all are bound to make mistake. To error is human, but repetition of mistake is not correct. I've seen in offices, sometimes young chap, Gen Z. Now this term is very much, so common. Gen Z, when they join, they really expect that everything should be like this. But life is not like that. Life is like, this, goes down, goes up, goes down, goes up, and we learn in a process. Not like that you just passed and you become big boss. No way. You have to really walk the talk. And for this walk the talk, we need to hard work. Sincerity, commitment, dedication, copy, paste, reply. How you will get to know all this thing unless you do by yourself? So let's promise to yourself, those who are youngsters, my young chap Gen Z watching this particular webinar, promise to yourself first that no, I will turn around. If you succeed, yes, I will be happiest one, because you would be coming back telling me, yes, sir, after listening to you, I changed myself. How many of you are willing to? Can I see yes in a question answers tab? Can I see answer yes in question answers tab that you want it to be? So that's what I'm looking for. Yes, do it. And that is importantly required. Thank you very much. Let's move. Now the adjudication. So you have prepared the reply. After preparation of reply, you are getting PH notice, personal hearing notice. What we normally do, we go with the file prepared. File is containing all your reply to show cause notice, documentation along with the show cause notice. Don't. I'm telling you, when you're going for PH, you must sit down at office. Give half a day or full day, depending on the file. And create a pager, like one pager. See, I'm showing you one pager today. For today's webinar, I was running through that what all pointers I want to deliberate today. I'm just showing it to you. See, I do not know whether you can see it or not, but this is all my handwritten, all my handwritten. I have first captured myself. No, I'm going to discuss this. I'm going to discuss this. I'm going to discuss this. And then I create a pager, one pager or two pager pointer. So that I would be knowing when I'm going before the authority, when I have passed through my young age. I've seen that initially when we are going for PH, we are not ready. Even word doesn't come in our mouth. We get hesitation. Lot of sweating comes out. To be easy, you should create pointer for yourself. Why these pointers? So that when you're going for PH, you'd be knowing that on this point, and just correlate with the page number of that paper book which you have prepared. Pointer with the page number. So that when you are discussing and presenting your point to the officer concerned, at least you can say, this is the point, sir. And now I want to draw your attention on this page where provision is being given, where case law is being cited, where document is being supported, where annexure number is there. It would be easy for you, handy for you to correlate. And then you can make out your case. Do you all agree? This is the best way we can do it. Do you all agree? If you're agreeing, then this is the way we need to adopt for personal hearing, for the personal hearing. That's what I'm telling you. So adjudication stage, as I said, prepare written submission, oral argument strategy, ensure everything is on record, everything on record. If something is not there, go with the additional submission. Let's say at the time reply to so-called notice, you could not capture, maybe a case. Then there's no harm, you can prepare the additional submission and get officially submitted under acknowledgement. So that this additional submission become part of your submission, original submission of reply. So that can also be done. And challenge department's evidence also. So these are all exemplary points which I'm drawing. It can be going multifold depending on our articulation, charismatic way to look at the litigation. It varies from one person to another person. And yes, with this process, with this experience, we grow, and we grow like anything. And that's what our objective should be. Now navigating GSTAT effectively. So I will take half an hour more, and then I will take you to the first stage appeal and GSTAT. So I need your attention. Are you all sticking to me for half an hour? Only half an hour. Then we will have open house session. Your questions you can put. We can answer your queries. Rest assured, half an hour only. All right. So I know that you may be running sort of time. You need to go back to your home because there's an evening time. But give me half an hour. It will be making sense to you, and you'd be happy to listen this half an hour. Important one. First, when any impugned order in original passed by adjudicating authority, then we need to file appeal before first appellate authority under section 107 of CGST Act. For filing appeal, what is important criteria? Important criteria is any aggrieved person must file appeal in 3 plus 1 month. 1 month is the condonation. 3 plus 1 month. Taxpayer, aggrieved taxpayer, he must file appeal within 3 plus 1 month condonation. And this time is sacrosanct. For revenue, it is 6 plus 1 month. File appeal. For filing appeal, there is a provision of making pre-deposit. So what is the provision 107 is saying? 107 is saying any admitted liability, tax, interest, penalty, any late fees must be deposited. Must be deposited. Admitted one. And wherever disputed tax, interest, penalty, you must make 10% pre-deposit of only disputed tax, not interest, not penalty, of only disputed tax, subject to maximum of 40 crore. CGST plus SGST. Maximum threshold is 40 crore Earlier, it was 50 crore. First stage appellate authority. Now, this is a disputed tax. Now, coming back to GSTAT, when you get impugned order in appeal passed by the first appellate authority, this is an impugned order in appeal for you, then you need to file appeal before GSTAT, which is GST Appellate Tribunal. GST Appellate Tribunal, that is the short abbreviation GSTAT. What is the timeline prescribed? Timeline prescribed, as I said, and you have to be very much careful about, if any impugned order in appeal passed on or before 31st March 2026. Are you listening? Any impugned order in appeal passed by first appellate authority on or before 31st March 2026, last date to file appeal is 30th June 2026. 30th June 2026. Or any order in appeal passed on or after 1st April 2026, then time limit is 3 months from the date of receipt of order in appeal, and condonation is 3 months. 3 plus 3 months for aggrieved taxpayer, and for revenue it is 6 plus 3 months. This time is sacrosanct, I'm telling you. Lot of appeal are being rejected only on the basis of limitation. So let me take this point further. First, let me finish pre-deposit, then I will tell you, in case your time got expired, what you can do. For filing appeal before GSTAT, time limit 3 plus 3 months for any order appeal passed after 1st April 2026. Now, here also you have to make pre-deposit of additionally 10%. Additionally 10%. 10% you have paid at first stage of appellate authority. Here also again you will pay 10% additional of disputed tax. Of disputed tax. Any admitted liability must be deposited. Admitted liability of tax, interest, penalty, fees must be deposited. Pre-deposit only in addition 10% of disputed tax subject to maximum of 40 crore. C plus S, which was earlier 100 crore. So this is the pre-deposit. But irony and one of the draconian provision which got introduced from 1st October 2025 is the penalty order. If any penalty order, there's no tax demand, only penalty order. Penalty order we have seen like under section 122, 122(1)(a), penalty order for any offenses. There's a compulsory pre-deposit provision, 10%. Pre-deposit of impugn that disputed penalty amount. 10% is okay, but there's no upper cap. For disputed tax, there was upper cap of 40 crore, but for penalty order, there's no upper cap. That is the reason I use the term draconian provision. Under section 122, subsection 1A, and any so-called notice department is like, when they are releasing fake ITC or anything, they first demand tax, interest, penalty from the company, and then they demand penalty from the concerned person. That can be director, that can be employee, that can be consultant, any person. 122 subsection 1A. In one of the case, in Sanjaya Santanu Hundekeri, penalty so-called notice was for amount 3,731 crore rupees. Basis of allegation, fake ITC. And department saying to employee tax manager, you have retained the benefit of how much? 3,731 crore rupees. If you need to file appeal against this particular penalty order, let's assume, then 10% pre-deposit would be 373 crore because there is no upper limit. Whereas for disputed tax, upper limit was 40 crore. Look at the irony, but the fortunate part, Bombay High Court has given the relief that any person is not a taxable person, and vicarious liability you can't impose like this. And there was a time limit also. See, this 122 subsection 1A got introduced from 1st January 21. So question was, can you apply retrospectively? Be prospectively applicable unless it is being worded like that. It was prospective, made effective from 1st January 21. How can you levy penalty for offences prior to 1st January 21? Bombay High Court is giving all favorable judgment. Even Bombay High Court judgment of that Sanjaya Santanu Hundekeri, which was favorable judgment in the case of Musk. SLP was filed in Supreme Court, that got dismissed in Lemonine. Nothing was discussed on merit. But what contrary thing we are finding from Delhi High Court? Delhi High Court is saying, yes, it can be applied retrospectively also. So I do not know. A lot of things are evolving. Even consolidated so-called notice for multiple financial year. Bombay High Court is saying not possible. Karnataka High Court is saying not possible. Kerala High Court is saying not possible. But Delhi High Court is saying possible. What to do? Fortunate part, Bombay High Court recently has referred this matter to the larger bench to decide whether so-called notice should be year-wise or it can be consolidated from multiple financial year. To my mind, when annual return, GSTR 9 and 9C, it is per year basis, then my all provisions should be driven as per the tax period specific. It cannot be generalized for multiple, and within multiple years clubbed into one so-called notice, sometimes they are taking extra advantage of time limitation. So let's see, wait and watch. But to my mind, it should be read as per the year-wise. Otherwise, you are making section 44 GSTR 9 and 9C provision OTOs. Even your audit goes per year-wise. Your GST scrutiny system 1, 2A, 2B, 3B, then reconcile with 9 and 9C. It is all driven by financial year basis. These are all litigation point. We'll discuss sometime later. But only point which I'm drawing, penalty order, which I referred to you. So GSTAT time limit would be 3 + 3 months. I've said any order passed prior to 1st April 26, last date would be 30th June 26. Are you ready? So when you're going to file appeal, APL 05, and how your appeal need to be drafted, what are the format, what are the content, I'm going to discuss with you. So please capture those pointers for your preparation for GSTAT. But now, when you're drafting any appeal before GSTAT, it should be in prescribed form, and prescribed form is APL 05 for aggrieved taxpayer, and for revenue is APL 07. Any cross objection on appeal filed by the revenue, then APL 06. And how your that appeal should be drafted. This is important, right? Now just you look at the way we have drafted the reply to so-called notice. It is some like replica. You should build appeal memo with precision, focus on question of law and strong factual matrix. And I've divided into 3 buckets for your understanding: your ground up appeal, your paper book preparation, and argument building. What are the important factors you should have in your mind whenever you are preparing appeal before GSTAT? Draft concise, legally sustainable grounds, avoid repetition of facts, focus on pure question of facts and law separately, cite binding precedent precisely, structured argumentation is key. When you look at paper book preparation, you must make sure chronological sequence of all events. File any writ petition in Delhi, in any high court. Why Delhi High Court? Any high court. They always want us to prepare list of date and events. Similar is the way you need to create chronology, sequence of all event, fully indexed document bundle, cross-referenced evidence mapping, summary of facts at the front, and all lower order copies included. Lower order copies mean order in original and order in appeal by first appellate authority. Argument building, like combine facts plus law plus precedent. Emphasize consistency in return. Demonstrate mismatch of department case. Use circular binding on the department, and wherever you feel like something which I can add, depending on the case, you're free. And you can just make your case as stronger as possible. But your foundation is good, you will be able to make it. Only thing which I want to draw here, your foundation is good, you can make it here. But if your foundation is not good, then it would be a difficult task for you here. And now here, additional evidence acceptance is subjective, which you have not produced before adjudicating authority, which you have not produced before appellate authority. It is very subjective before GSTAT. So that is the reason it says new era. I said navigating GST litigation. Now, how you can strengthen your argument when you talk about GSTAT appeal? How you can strengthen? Again, 4 important buckets you must keep to your mind. And these are the pointer I've discussed when I was discussing with you foundation, reply to so-called notice. First, highlight natural justice of violation, principle of natural justice. I've said how you can demonstrate, you are aware of by this time now. Lack of proper hearing opportunity. Your order is being passed without considering your submission. You can always say the other reason that it is violation of principle of natural justice. Expose lack of reasoning. See, order passed without reasoning, only copy paste. Allegation in a so-called notice reproduced in the order and confirmed. What is the reasoning? Give me the reasoning. I've submitted the documentation. Why my documentation is not sufficient enough? I'm discussing one case with you so that you will get a more clarity. If I'm submitting all documentation, saying that I got tax invoice, I got eBay bill, I got LR copy, I got Big Ben slip, I got transporter bill, I have paid the taxes, 1 and 3B status of supplier bill provided, I'm filing my 3B, it is all coming, 2A, 2B, everything is there. But still department is disputing fake ITC. It is sustainable. It is sustainable. It is not going to be sustainable. Not going to be sustainable. No way. Your documentation they must look at and they must say why they are not accepting your documentation. Lot of judgment coming that unless department prove connivance between supplier and recipient, they can't allege fake ITC. These documentation are basis. So order only alleging and confirmation or reasoning will not work. And that is what you need to explain in your appeal drafting. Demonstrate department failure to prove its case. Contradiction between so-called notice and order. Sometime what is being passed in the order is not alleged in the so-called notice. Can it be? 75 subsection 7 of CGST Act clearly saying that the order cannot go beyond so-called notice. I'm telling you, in one of the case, so-called notice was alleging that I took registration by means of fraud. That was the allegation. I submitted one-page reply to the authority saying that let me know the reason and basis of your allegation. They canceled my registration with retrospective date. I did not, wait for the appeal. I did not go for revocation. I filed a writ petition in Delhi High Court. I argued before Lordship and said, Lordship, so-called notice cannot be only allegation. There should be basis and reasoning. They're only making allegation. I took registration by means of fraud with a basis and reason. What should I respond? I wrote to them. I also wrote to them, give me PH. They did not give me PH and they canceled my registration with retrospective date. How come doable violation of principle of natural justice? My writ is maintainable or not? See, if you can demonstrate four situations, again I'm telling you, four situations. Even though alternate remedy exists, but you can go for writ petition under Article 226 or 227 to the Constitution of India. What are four situations? Violation of fundamental right. When you are challenging vials of law within the GST, excessive jurisdiction, and when violation of principle of natural justice. In these four given situations, alternate remedy is not a bar. So litigation is very interesting. You have to build up. And believe me, when I argued before Lordship, in this particular case, I got the relief that so-called notice and cancellation order got vacated. And even Honorable Lordship has levied 5,000 rupees penalty on revenue to be paid to the petitioner, arguing counsel to the petitioner. So it is all how you're preparing yourself. Use circulars strategically because circulars are binding on department. Substance over form. Form is not important. What is substance? That is important. And that you need to draw from your appeal. Now just emerging trend. So you need to be little more versatile, more informed, more prepared, and ready to go approach. And with the positive mindset, yes, I can do it. And with this given, emerging trends, you have to prepare yourself. So whatever emerging trends coming out, of course, AI is good, but AI cannot be a master. AI should be assistant to you. AI cannot be master. AI is assistant, servant to you. The way you want, you can take the help, but AI should not be mastering you. So what are the things you should keep to your mind? Like data-driven scrutiny via AI. Of course, you can take the advantage. Increase reliance on GSTAT 2B analytics. Whatever coming on GSTN portal, you can draw the compliance status, reproduce, support in your appeal, drafting reply to so-called notice. Faceless and digital adjudication, now that is happening under income tax, but it is now made applicable in GST also, like PH is being given virtual by adjudicating authority or appellate authority. Even GSTAT can do hearing physically, virtually, and even in hybrid mode. So sitting in Delhi, I can appear before GSTAT of Hyderabad, virtually possible. So faceless and digital adjudication, that is what greater importance of pre-litigation preparation. You should be, building up whatever you can prepare best for the appellate mechanism. Golden rules for strong GST litigation. What are the golden rules? Quick snapshot. Otherwise, I've covered in my webinar, but still I can go one by one. At so-called notice, what are the golden rule? Just take down, important one. Respond comprehensively, not copy-paste. Leave nothing unanswered. Attach all relevant evidence and supporting document, because any additional evidence is subjective to be accepted by the bench before GSTAT. Formally challenge all legal defects in the so-called notice. Golden rules. During adjudication, when you're going for adjudication PH, ensure proper personal hearing is on record, though they are not doing anything. Department, I've seen maximum cases, just two-liner, reiterate it and sign. That's all. Sometimes they are not giving me copy of that PS note also. But you make sure that if he's not giving and not noting down, but you make sure your documentation, your reply, everything submitted officially and duly acknowledged as if submitted. File detailed written submission for every argument. Contradict department evidence point by point at GSTAT, but before first appellate authority, then followed by GSTAT. Focus on law and structured documentation. Present your case logically and concisely, and then use binding circular and judicial precedent so that you can say there is no, we always say that this subject matter is already being decided, Lordship, and there is no res integra. So those are the things you have to pick up. A lot of doctrine plays important role. Legitimate expectation, reasonable opportunity, doctrine of promissory estoppel, doctrine of impossibility. A lot of things which we can pick up looking at the specific case and take to our advantage. So last slide, and then I'm open for all the question answers. In GST litigation, success is not built in appeal. It is engineered. I said engineered, constructed, and built at the so-called notice stage through facts, documentation, and precise legal drafting. So I'm giving my all communication address to each one of you. My email ID, our website, our connect. You can always come back to us. So finishing my presentation today and requesting Aparna to take a lead for question answers and stopping this screen. So Aparna, you can come back and start question answers for today's webinar.
Thank you, sir. It was a very insightful webinar. I'm sure they found it really useful. We've gotten a lot of interesting questions. I'll get started with the first question. We have from Pratham. He's asking if from financial year 24-25, will the department be using section 74A for issuing notice?
For 24-25, of course, they would be using 74A, and that is applicable. If, let's say, for 24-25, they are invoking 73 and 74, then it is without jurisdiction. Then that so-called notice is void. So 74 capital A sacrosanct for financial year 24-25 onwards.
The next question is from Balaji. He's asking whether summary of arguments before adjudicating authority needs to be submitted during personal hearing.
See, Mr. Balaji, quite obvious. We can always submit summary of argument, and this summary of argument comes from your reply to so-called notice and additional submission. If you have prepared and submitted before the authority, of course, he can annex and say these are the summary we have submitted. Whether he has considered or not considered, that is his prerogative. But from our side, we should always support and connect and say substantiation that this is what we have submitted, he has not considered.
Yeah, in continuation to that, he asks again, does written summary of arguments need to be filed with the adjudicating authority?
You can, definitely, and that is to your advantage. I said, if something missed at the time of reply to so-called notice, you can submit additional submission, but officially submit and take acknowledgement.
So, the next question is from Ramesh. He asks, can you give me more examples of additional evidence as per Rule 112?
There are so many additional evidence example, like, some of the documentation you are saying you have received the goods, but you have not submitted at the time of reply to so-called notice, not submitted before first appellate authority. What are the evidences? Like your LR copy, like your eBay bill, like your toll receipt, like your payment slip, some pictures available, which you should have submitted before, which you did not do. So can be considered additional evidence now. So relevant one, it should be, relevant one, and relevant one must be. And to my mind, the bench will accept.
Thank you, sir. The next question is how to define in 74A whether it is fraud case or non-fraud case.
It's very simple. They will definitely make out, they will say why it is a fraud case. They will going to allege that this is how the ministry are coming out, intention to evade taxes. Of course, timeline is common, but it does not mean that this penalty is different for non-fraud case and fraud case. And to that extent, it need to be made out in the so-called notice. So quite obvious, if department is saying ministry fraud, then they must showcase what fraud I committed. I gave one example while discussing in the webinar that department allege I took registration by means of fraud. I said, tell me the region and basis. You are making only allegation. Without basis and region, how can it be? And I got the relief also. That is how. So you have to look at your so-called notice and see they're only alleging or they're showing you the basis and region. If basis and region is missing, then you can always defend your case. It's not a case of fraud, rather it is a case of non-fraud case.
Thank you, sir. The next question is from Tarun. He's asking if CGST authority has issued ASMT 10, whether SGST authority can issue show cause notice on same issue and period.
See, now here, as per Armed Security India, what they have said proceeding, what is the meaning of proceedings? When we look at section 6, subsection 2, clause B, they are saying by issuance of so-called notice. So unless so-called notice is being issued, it is not the proceedings. So maybe SMT 10 issued by one authority, but so-called notice issued by other authority, it's possible.
Okay. The next question is from Jayant. He's asking, does the threshold limit also apply to SGST?
No, state-specific SGST, there is nothing, no such circular, but some of the state has issued the circular for their compliance, which you need to cross-check from state perspective. But CGST pan-India applicable, that's the reason I quoted CGST circular number 31. But from SGST perspective, it is state-specific. You have to search and check. If it is available, then only you can make the point of jurisdiction. Otherwise, CGST circular is not binding on the SGST authority unless it is being adopted by SGST department.
So the next question is from Santosh. He's asking, in the case of a taxpayer who's assessed by the state tax department and falls under state jurisdiction, can the central GST department adjudicate a show cause notice issued by the central anti-evasion wing, or must the adjudication be only done by the state tax department?
See, you may be under coming SGST jurisdictional authority, but if so-called notice issued by the central authority, like DGGI or anti-evasion authority, then they can adjudicate the same. They are not your jurisdictional officer, but that is what there is circular and notification in this regard. You have to read those circular, which is giving cross empowerment to each other.
The next question is from Ishan. He's asking, so what will be the validity of an show cause notice issued in respect of various suppliers to multiple taxpayers for multiple tax period, without wherein it has not been quantified the quantum of demand against each supplier? And who is the jurisdictional officer in such cases? Will it follow the monetary limit as specified in each case, or a common jurisdiction officer?
So Ishan, this is very tricky questions, and to my mind, it cannot be generalized. It needs to be specific one. And even when it is generalized, you can defend yourself saying that what is allegation against me? You're only generalizing. Some supplier you're disputing and then you're making my transaction as a dubious, can't be doable. So of course, that is how, and this limit, when one particular, so-called notice in order to be with a threshold of 20 lakh for superintendent up to 2 crore for AC and DC, and a CGST, that circular which I'm referring to, so need to be in holistic way. Now again, we understand from a so-called notice perspective. So-called notice now for one supplier, another so-called notice for another supplier, third so-called notice for another supplier, then it is never-ending process. And when it is originating, cause of action arise from same event, then of course we can make out a case before the authority and even to higher up authority, to what extent it would be kept open. So these are the subjective things need to be worked out and checked and accordingly defended. defense need to be done in a manner when you look at factual position. And looking at the factual position, please see what best we can defend and what best manner we can defend. So this need to be depending on the case to case.
Got it. Thanks, sir. The next question is from Harshita. She's saying, in one of our clients' cases, he actually took fake supply, but he had all the documents as proof and he didn't want to pay tax and wanted to file appeal for that. In that case, should it be argued or should tax be deposited?
On public domain, you're agreeing that you have taken the fake credit and wanted me to reply whether you should defend or not. Sorry to say, if you know by yourself that you have done wrong, then legally and legitimately accept and close the subject matter.
Thanks, sir. The next question is from Kapil. He's saying, sir had mentioned a portal for tracking vehicle movement. Could you please confirm which portal you were referring to?
It was some NFID. Even I am in the process. I will put on public domain sometime in near future. There's one portal which is available, which is giving tracking for truck moving through different toll. So maybe you have to wait with me. I've just come across. Maybe I will be coming back. It might not be helping you for the past period, but way forward it is going to help you all for tracking of your movement of truck from one toll to another toll.
Thank you, sir. The next question is from Akash. He's asking, can we get a draft of the reply to show cause notice for reference? If there are any
Akash, so easy. Now, whatever best I could do, you draft by yourself. I've given you all insight what to be done, how to be done. There's nothing like standard, juice prepared for all disease. No way. It varies from one situation to another situation. It can't be customized, like, one SOP for everyone applicable. No way. Different facts, different reply, and different reply from looking at different factual position. Sorry, but otherwise, what should be the basis? I've given you the basis to get yourself ready.
Thank you, sir. So from Vamsi, the next question is, will additional grounds in appeal will be accepted which are not mentioned in the time of show cause notice reply?
Of course, additional ground would be accepted provided relevant one, and maybe you can demonstrate that this could not be submitted for region so-and-so, which you have collected in a process. It is relevant to defend your case. So looking at the relevancy of case, of course, court will accept, but you have to prove why you could not submit in the past. So you have to really, get ready, prepare yourself, and substantiate and satisfy the authority why it is submitted now, not before.
Thank you, sir. The next question is from Akash. He's asking if we can share some formats of appeal to be made in GST.
Done.
Sorry?
No, we have done this.
Sorry. Okay. Yes. The next question is from Purushothaman. He's asking, what is best legal option if first appeal is rejected in APL 02 itself for the COD publication without hearing?
That can be argued. See, I can tell you one thing. A lot of appeal is getting rejected only on limitation. But if you can prove why you could not submit within time, then of course you are having writ remedy. You can go to High Court and get the relief. You can say why it could not be submitted. And department cannot reject your appeal just on limitation. There has to be some reasoning for that. And I've seen number of cases pan-India where on limitation department is rejecting your appeal, first appellate authority. You have option of, either to file appeal before GSTAT or you have option for writ remedy also. But you have to prove why it is your case, why you could not submit, and why it should be entertained. So relief is available. You have to make out your good case. Sometimes demand which is unjustified. You can't make pre-deposit of 10%. How come it is? I have no money, and they are, confirming demand like anything, whatever they want it to be. So when unjustified demand, I'm not having money to make pre-deposit, we can make out our case. We can also go to the writ court and saying that this demand is unjustified. This is non-regent order.
unwanted amount, unreasoned amount, unjustified demand, not doable lordship, and wherefrom I will get 10%. Financial crunch. So this need to be remanded back for the fresh adjudication with speaking order. So a lot of strategy need to be built in. So compulsory making 10% pre-deposit is subjective one. Within the time limit is subjective one. There are many region, genuine region, which can be demonstrated and stated, sir, for this reason we can't do. Please, we want relief. So that's what we have to make out a case. So I say, looking at each case, we have to prepare our strategy and defense accordingly.
So the next question from Mukesh. He's asking, what is the time period for initiating audit under Section 65 of CGST Act for a particular financial year, for example, 2020 to 2021?
So they can do anything at any time, but limitation of issuance of so-called notice is important one. So they can't start when limitation get expired for issuance of so-called notice. So audit time period nowhere prescribed, but of course, after doing audit, issuance of so-called notice within the stipulated time period is important one. If stipulated time period get expired, then they can't take up audit also. They can't. But of course, the cases of non-fraud versus fraud, 73 versus 74, that's the point of one contention now, 74 capital A with a common timeline. So of course, when time limit of 42 months from the due date of furnishing annual return for issuance of so-called notice. So if this time period get expired, then they can't do anything. Even though they, after taking audit, after starting audit, what they will do? So nothing. So time limit for issuance of so-called notice is the criteria to be looked at.
We have another question from Mukesh. How to determine pre-deposit amount if the disputed is penalty only determined by adjudication authority under section?
Said penalty order, again 10% of disputed penalty subject to no upper threshold. Upper threshold is applicable only for the disputed tax, and I did discuss very clearly in my deliberation. You can watch this video on YouTube when it gets uploaded on Zoho Books YouTube channel. So you can cross-check. I said that 10% pre-deposit of disputed penalty with no upper limit.
Thank you, sir. The next question is from Santosh. In case depart file appeal, what procedure is to be followed by the office, and is there instruction issued by GST department in this regards?
Which question you're reading, Aparna?
It's from Santosh. It's in case depart file appeal.
In case depart file appeal, what procedure to be followed by office? Is there any instruction issued by GST department in this regard? See, now Santosh, appeal is filed, but hearing sometime not taking place for a year or 2 or 3. You can always say, is there any process or procedure? They should take up, that's what the process. But CGST, different way of, handling the appellate mechanism. SGST, state specific, different way to handle the appellate mechanism. So it is again going in abrupt manner, I should say. But nevertheless, provision like in GSTAT, what they have said that, when appeal is being filed, it is being heard, and after final hearing, order to be passed within 30 days, like this kind of mechanism as prescribed. But term use as far as possible, wherever the time limit criteria, as far as possible, it is keeping open for them. So this requires little, intervention by GST Council, and they must create time-bound, provision. Within time period, they must hear the case and they must decide the case. If that specific time limit is being prescribed in the law, then we might get some clear mechanism and procedure as you're looking for.
Next question is from Tarun. He's asking for admitted liability of financial year 17-18 reported and paid in GSTAT 3B of financial year 19-20 without interest, whether department can directly recover interest on such delayed payment of tax under section 7512 without
No, they can't. They have to issue so-called notice, and there is judgment on that.
Next, we have a question from Nitin. What is the procedure to be adopted if assessors fail to field appeal within 3+1 month due to not knowing this order?
You
I
can all.
Yes.
I got it, Aparna.
Mm.
In that case, you can definitely, file appeal. You can say your reason why you could not submit within 3+1 month. And if relief is not being granted, of course, you got the mechanism, alternate remedy. You can file a writ petition and get the relief from High Court also. Because this time limit, of course, sacrosanct, but if we can substantiate that it was not in my knowledge, it was not uploaded on a portal. How do I come to know that? My time limit start only from date of service. What is date of service? When it is uploaded on a portal or provided through an email or intimated to me. Uploading on a portal is not sufficient enough. Even it need to be given through an email. Some of the judgment coming from different high court. And even we have seen if email going to a junk email, what happened then? So basis and reasoning need to be created.
Got it. From Mamsi, we have a question on, Sir, I've received an order in original for a show cause notice and received a separate penalty order for the same order in original. Am I required to pay pre-deposit once again on the penalty order?
See, penalty order is a separate order with you. Then, of course, for appeal against penalty order, pre-deposit to be made. So if there are different separate order for the tax, interest, penalty, and for penalty under section 122 separate order, of course, then there are two impugned order. So two different appeal and two different pre-deposit.
The next question is from Santosh. In case of order in original, 5 issue was disputed and tax demanded was 5 crore and hence 50 lakh was pre-deposited. Relief was received in first appeal for 3 issues of 3 crores and now 2 issues are in dispute 2 crores. So number one, whether a refund to claim for 30 lakh and pay an additional pre-deposit of 20 lakh later on, or two, refund can be claimed on net basis of rupees 10 lakh only.
You are right, Santosh, and this is a very tricky issue. Like, you rightly said 5 issue was disputed, tax demanded was 5 crore, you deposited 50 lakh, relief was received in first appeal for 3 issues for 3 crore. Now 2 crore issues are in dispute. So do I require to make additional pre-deposit? Need not be required because you have already deposited 50 lakh rupees. But whatever excess you have deposited, can you go for refund? To my mind, of course, it should be granted, but these are all open points, and for that, we need to have clarity and clarification. But to my mind, additional pre-deposit is not required, and you should not do that.
Got it. The next question is from CA Rahul Dio. He says, GST APL 04 shows demand confirmed as ₹0 in order where FAA has directed to re-educate under Section 73 instead of under Section 74. GSTAT portal shows no pre-deposit payable as APL 04 shows ₹0. What to do?
For that, there is no one GSTN advisory got issued where amount mismatch is there and you're not being able to file. So it is editable one, and you can look at recent GSTN advisory to correct such thing and then proceed accordingly.
The next question is from Sarthak. He's asking, is this SGST or CGST department in Rajasthan bound to consider Bombay High Court's judgment?
Jurisdictional basis, no, but we can always argue on a question of law if some High Court decide and there is no contrary judgment on that same question of law from any other High Court, then that should be accepted, and that is what the legal jurisprudence is all about. So on a question of law, if particular High Court has decided and no contrary judgment from any other High Court, then that should be binding and that can be adopted.
The next question is from Deepen. He's asked, continuation of 3 months allowed before 31st March 2026 order?
So now here again, they have said through an order. So they are saying last date is 30th June 2026. Now you want to have plus 3 months more. This order is specifically saying all such order time limit would be 30th June 2026. They are not considering 3 plus 3 months. So to my mind, again, subjective view, and you need to be careful about.
The next question is from Shivakumar. He's asking, in first appeal, is it necessary to pay 10% of penalty when tax, interest, penalty are part of the original order DRC 07?
In case 10% of penalty when tax, interest. No, when your demand is tax, interest, penalty are part of original order, then only 10% of disputed tax. You do not require to pay 10% of penalty. 10% penalty applicable only for the penalty order, Sivakumar.
I think this might be our final question. As per para 32 of SC judgment of Safari Retreats, can we claim or utilize the accumulated ITC on construction of hotel against output tax liability of hotel rented income, as construction of hotel would never be on own account?
Neil, I'm of the view can be done, and that is what para 32 of Safari Retreats talks about. So to my mind, doable. But of course, divergent views are there in the public domain. But to my mind, yes, doable.
We do have a few questions on the Q&A tab. We'll maybe take the last few questions and...
Okay, no problem.
So there's a question by Anshul. He's asking, the 43rd and 44th GST Council meeting rate on PPE kits was maintained at 5%. However, there is no specific HSN code or for PPE kits. So would PPE kits only be including the body store, or would it cover the accessories as part of the supply? How is this maintainable in a reply to notice when the department alleges PPE kits are a mixed supply and 18% is applicable? What is the legal standing of GST Council meetings minutes when there's no following circular or a notification?
So to my mind, not only this particular point, there are so many other points. You need to be careful about explanation Roman 3 and Roman 4 when you look at rate notification. And they're giving importance to the first schedule of Custom Tariff Act, rate with explanatory note, section note, chapter note, general rule of interpretation, which is driven from the Custom Tariff Act. So even the parts and components, which is specifically for a particular machine, then those parts and components will fall under that specific machine HSN only. That is what we have seen, and that is how the Custom Tariff Act we have read under different section and chapters. So you need to go back and check a relevant chapter and see whether parts and components specifically used for that machine, for that particular, machine or whatever you are referring to. If that is meant for manufacturing of specific machine and whatever equipment you are referring to, if that is the case, then you can apply even parts and component fall under that particular category HSN only. So it cannot fall under residue category. This is not only one dispute. This dispute is in different product. Recently, I argued one case, parts and component of ballpoint pen. What would be the rate applicable? Department say 18%. I said, how come 18%? It is not residue. Is the part and component of ballpoint pen, and whatever GST rate applicable on ballpoint pen, that rate should be applicable. And that was accepted by Commissioner Appeal and given the order in our favor. But I relied upon Custom Tariff Act. I reproduced HSN, section note, chapter note, general rule of interpretation. That is how you need to look at. Of course, GST Council minutes, they are not accepting, in tandem. But of course, you have to make out your case and then defend your case accordingly.
So the next question is from Neelam. She's asking, who is the respondent in case of GSTAT appeal? Is it the officer issuing appellate order or the officer issuing original order?
Commissioner adjudicating authority.
The next question is from Kavya. She's asking, sir, in the e-way bill orders, many times temporary registration is taken for filing of appeals. So in that case, if the order in appeal is passed, then how do we take the registration?
E-way bill order, many a times temporary registration is taken for filing appeal. So in that case, if order is not, how to take the registration? Now see, these are all tactics adopted by the state, transit state, where they got you temporary number, levied the penalty, got the money deposited, you file the appeal. So now this is getting very difficult where to file, where temporary registration got created. To my mind, it needs clarity even we are asking for, because in that transit state, we are not existing. We took registration only for the payment sake, penalty payment sake for the eBay bill. So where to file appeal? To my jurisdictional authority or to the authority GSTAT, where transit state is to which this to which this case belong to. So now in a given situation, clarity is not there. We all are looking for the clarification or subjective one. To my mind, if I've taken temporary number in a particular transit state, but my registration is available in other source state or origin state, wherever we are referring to, then my appeal should be going to that, my origin or source state rather than in transit state. But nevertheless, let's see. But even transit state, we are getting judgment from different high court. How come transit state officers are levying penalty? They are not being empowered. So a lot of things, but need clarity. No clear-cut direction in this regard. But of course, you're right. Where our appeal should go, whether it should go GSTAT of transit state, or it should go to a state where we are registered.
So, the next question is, sir, how do we deal with CAG paras received from range or state GST department?
Which one?
I've put it in the chat. Sir, how to deal with CAG paras received from.
Okay. See, here my answer would be CAG is doing for the State Department, not for you. So their para cannot be basis of allegation for so-called notice issued to you. And you can always say if some paras created by CAG for department audit, how come that is relevant to me? So there are cases coming up that CAG's paras cannot be made basis for issuance of so-called notice. So it can be defended well.
So next question is, so when first appeal is dismissed as time barred, whether the second appellate authority considers the appeal on just limitation and remand back, or would hear on merit also?
To my mind, it is open to the bench, second appellate authority, which is GSTAT. They might remand back because they are having the power of remand back also. And in case they are willing, they can listen to you on merit also. So it all depends. It can be remand back, or they can admit your appeal and maybe hearing you on merit also. So there's nothing like any specific rule. They will go by principle of natural justice, and they are not going to follow Code of Civil Procedure as per Section 111 of CGST Act. So it can be a combination. So that is how my answer would be.
Got it. And this is the final question for the evening, which is there any additional fee for filing additional documents before GSTAT?
See, if it is going with a miscellaneous application, of course, then the miscellaneous application, there are additional fees. But for additional evidence, additional documents, to my mind, no. It is on the basis accepted by the GSTAT.
Got it. I think we've come to a close on this session. Yeah. So as this session comes to a close, I hope today's webinar has provided each and every one of you with a clearer and more structured understanding of GST litigation. We trust that whether you're a CA or an advocate or a tax professional, you leave today's session better equipped to approach GST disputes with greater confidence and precision and strategic clarity. On behalf of the Zoho Books team, we extend our sincere thanks to CA Bimal Jain sir for a super engaging and informative session today. And additionally, thank you for your time and participation in today's session. Don't worry, you can access this webinar and revisit it at any time. We will be posting it to our YouTube channel shortly, so stay tuned for that. Let me just quickly paste the YouTube channel link in the chat so that you can subscribe to it and make sure that you watch the channel when we post it. Yes, so thank you so much for joining today, and we hope to see you soon.
Just 1 minute, I will take Aparna.
Yes, for sure.
Thanking each of the participants. You taken out your time and definitely join today's webinar. I'm sure you got a lot of good insight for your GST litigation practice. Of course, this is journey. We all are walking together, walk the talk, and we are trying to make GST good and simple tax. So we tried our best. We have taken up many questions, but in case some question which could not be answered because of time pause, you can always write back on our social media. Of course, we'll try to find time and to answer your queries. You are important. We all are important to each other. Let's take step forward to make this GST good and simple tax. With this, thanking Zoho Books team also, and to Aparna, a new moderator in place of hers. She did well and she picked up GST faster today. So maybe she can be another expert in GST in time to come. So wishing each one of you great success. Take care of yourself. God bless all of us together. Thank you very much.
Thank you.